Sean Kelly, MEP for Ireland South, good afternoon. Sean, how can the EU help rural communities help themselves in addressing the social and economic challenges facing them?
Well, this is one of the primary aims of the European community, that we would help all citizens across the 28 member states, and particularly in rural areas. And there are policies in place to do that, particularly through the agricultural and regional committees. And I think especially working through the leader groups, which have developed so well, especially in my own country, Ireland, for a good number of years, and were highlighted by the European Court of Auditors as being examples of best practice. That should be encouraged right across the European Union, and particularly to get a bottoms-up approach where the voluntary sector, community groups, and indeed maybe some stakeholders already in business will come together to look at what is most needed for their communities, and then draw up plans which leader can help them to bring into being by funding from the European Union and from national funding. And I was very pleased to be at the Plough Championships in Ireland last week, and in that I saw the wonderful work that's been done by Leader right throughout Ireland, the many viable businesses they've created at local level, and I think this is something that should be emulated and encouraged right across the European Union.
How can projects such as the Rural Alliance best communicate their priorities to EU policymakers, and how can they influence the EU policy-making process?
Well, firstly, I think it's very important to be engaged with what's happening in Europe. Sometimes it's remote from people, but an awful lot of the policies that eventually affect their lives start in Europe. So it's very important that those who are involved would be communicating with Europe from the first stage to the last stage, from the green paper right to implementation. And to do that, I think it's important to stay involved and communicate with their MEPs in particular, especially those who will be on the Regional Development Committee or in the agricultural committees. I think they would be able to give them a lot of guidance. And even more importantly is to have links with the European Commission office in each country, because they are dealing with these matters on a day-to-day basis, whereas MEPs are dealing with them in some ways one hand removed, because they're dealing on a legislative basis. So by being involved with the European Commission at national level, and possibly identify somebody at European level who would be dealing with their particular area, they can be very au fait with what's happening, what's coming down the tracks, and get the best possible advice. I think if they follow those approaches, then they will be in a position to maximise the funding that Europe makes available for rural communities, and also, of course, the funding that hopefully will come from national governments.
Sean Kelly, MEP, thank you very much.
Fáilte róir, go maith agat.